Hi, good evening. My name is Sarah, and I have been hosting the STC Laundry for a Clean Ocean classes we have had this August. We received some interest from the community members who were not able to attend the class on the days it was available. So we are doing a special recording for our blog, so anyone who missed it will be able to see it. Those who attended the original classes received a sustainable laundry starter kit from us. Classes were full to capacity, so we have no more kits, but we stand behind all the items we included in the kit, and I'll explain a little bit about them in the class. If you're interested in them, you can find all of those independently if you're interested, or you can contact me for more info. Like I said, I'm Sarah. I am still new to town. I have been in Skagway for about a year and have been working for STC for about 6 months. I am excited that you are watching this class and that you are interested in how you can lessen your impacts on our waterways. With me tonight is Ruben, and he is going to be doing an experiment for us a little later in the class. Do you want to say a quick hello, Ruben?
Oh, sure. Well, like Sarah said, my name is Ruben Cash. I'm the environmental coordinator here at STC. I've been with the tribe for about a year, and we always love doing these DIY night classes and doing the outreach for 6R because it's an easy way for everybody to do their part to help reduce the solid waste stream. And so, yeah, we're excited that you've decided to join us virtually.
Great, thank you, Ruben. So we are here to talk about how laundry is impacting our oceans and our waterways. We all know by now that ocean plastic and pollution are problems that we need to address. We're going to look into that tonight, but I don't want anyone going away from this feeling bad or sad or guilty. This class is about understanding these problems and looking at the solutions. I want everyone to finish this class feeling better, more informed, and more empowered to be able to do something. Tonight, we are going to look at how laundry fits into the plastic and ocean pollution problem. Then we're going to explore some of the solutions we can use right here in Skagway. At the end, I'm going to go over the details of how to make your own laundry detergent at home affordably and easily. For the sake of time, I'm going to keep everything pretty much to the basics tonight and go fairly quickly. There is really endless information about this, and I could talk about it all night, but I'm not going to do that to you. So for this class, I'm going to start with the more obvious problems with laundry and work my way to the more hidden ones. So first and most obvious, what does commercial laundry detergent come in? Big plastic jugs like this. And we may think, great, they're recyclable, right? They have the little recyclable symbol on the bottom of the container, and there's the number that most of us don't know what it means. But the truth is, only about 9% of plastics ever make it to be recycled, even if they are taken to the proper recycling facility. There are a few reasons why this is happening, and it is not necessarily a lack of people recycling. The recycling industry is like any other industry. It has to make financial sense. For example, if loads are too contaminated with dirty food containers or missorted recyclables, it is not worth the money and the energy to process it. It is actually cheaper to take it to the landfill and dump it. In Skagway, we know that no plastic is recycled. This is not necessarily a terrible thing though, because most of it is not going to end up in our ocean or our landfills. We do have a pretty direct route from our personal trash cans to the incinerators. This isn't a free pass though, because burning plastics can contribute to air pollution, and we really should avoid it if we can. Another thing to think about when you're thinking about laundry detergent is the actual detergent itself. In the US, most of our laundry detergent looks like this. It's the liquid type. And very briefly, some of the problems with this is the commercial laundry detergent takes a lot of water to create. It takes a lot of water to create the actual detergent and a lot of water to create the big plastic jug that it comes in. Liquid laundry detergent is also extremely easy to overuse. Most of the bottles come with a guide for how much to use for a load, but as you can see for this and this one, for example, it is almost impossible to read them. I think that a lot of people just pour some in and think the more detergent means the cleaner the clothes, but this really isn't true. There are also environmental concerns when it comes to laundry detergent. There have been some serious issues in the past with the impacts of detergents on marine environments, mainly regarding phosphates, which cause algal blooms. These blooms will use up all the dissolved oxygen in the water and choke out the marine systems. Phosphates have recently been removed from most detergents. However, there are still ingredients in commercial laundry detergents that are classified as having chronic aquatic toxicity. So it feels like they still have a little way to go with this. All of these issues have a pretty straightforward solution. Don't use commercial laundry detergent. It has been established that stopping the use of single-use plastics is the most important thing we can do to reduce marine plastic. With our modern fast-paced lifestyle, it can be hard to eliminate some plastics from our life because they really cater to mobility and convenience. But we really don't need our laundry detergent to be mobile or in disposable containers. I would say most of us are usually at home when we do our laundry, and this makes it a great place to eliminate single-use plastics, even for the busiest person. The laundry detergent recipe that I'm going to be giving you can completely take plastic out of the picture. There are 3 ingredients in this laundry detergent: washing soda, borax, and bar soap. All of these come in paper packaging. If you make it and then put it in a glass mason jar, you have completely eliminated the need for large plastic jugs and bottles. Also, if you take a little bit of it and mix it with some water and then rub it on your stains on your clothes, it can work as a great and very effective stain remover. Then you can throw your shout bottle away too. I do want to point out though, if you do decide to make your own laundry detergent, it's important to remember that this is still a cleaning product and should be used sparingly and responsibly. It is a natural alternative to the commercial products, but introducing anything in large quantities to an environmental system through our wastewater is going to take its toll. Overuse of any detergent, whether it's the stuff you make at home or the stuff you buy at the store, is going to be bad for your washer, it's going to be bad for your clothes, and it's going to be bad for the environment. So don't overuse your laundry detergent. The second concern with laundry that I want to bring up is something a little less obvious. Your dryer sheets. Something I had not thought of until recently is what these dryer sheets were actually physically made of. It turns out that our dryer sheets are made of polyester, which means plastic. They are really the epitome of single-use plastic. There is no option for recycling these or reusing these. They are also a much higher risk for finding their way into the ocean than, say, the big jugs that your laundry detergent comes in, simply because they're smaller and lighter, and there's a bit better chance that from their journey from your dryer to the waste facility, that they'll just get lost along the way and end up in the ocean. Once these find their way into the ocean, they're the type of material that is going to break down really easily and turn into small pieces of plastic in the ocean that can be mistaken for food by sea animals. Beyond all of this, they are made with harsh chemicals that are bad for your skin and bad for the environment. There is a pretty great alternative to dryer sheets, and that is wool balls. These wool balls can replace dryer sheets to soften your clothes and reduce your drying times. We included these in our laundry kits that we had given away, but they are really easy to find and purchase online. They are made of 100% natural fibers and be used for years before they need to be replaced. You really just toss them in your dryer and leave them in there. They will tumble around with your clothes in the dryer, separating them and agitating them. This will soften your clothes and help them to dry faster. If you, when you use them, you want to use between 3 and 6 in your dryer at a time. For me, I took about 20 minutes off of my dry time when I started using them. If you do decide to get some, it takes very little care to maintain them. If they ever start to look dirty or you feel like you want to wash them, you can just toss them right in the washer on hot, put them on a short cycle, and then you do want to dry them right away to keep them from getting any mildew or mold on them. They can start to get little pills on them, and that is completely fine. You can either leave the pills on them or take them off. It's completely up to you, but they are still completely fine to use. So the third issue that I want to talk about is one that I feel is the most important because it's something that not everybody is aware of or thinking about yet. And that is microfibers. We all have seen and dealt with microfibers. It is just something we are so used to that we may not have really thought about it yet. I'm sure all of you have used a dryer and emptied the lint filter. That lint is all the fibers that have come loose from your clothes during the drying cycle and then clung together onto the filter. This mat of fibers is made up of whatever your clothes are made of. These days, so many of our clothes are made with some kind of synthetic fiber, which means plastic. What we may not realize though is that the same kind of fiber shedding that happens in the dryer also happens in your washer. The big difference is that almost no washers in the United States have filters on them like our dryers do. This is what a typical washer filter looks like. It is only going to catch the large debris. It is basically there to protect pipes from getting clogged. All the fibers shedding from your clothes are washing down your drain uninhibited, and most of us are not really even aware of it. Many of these fibers that go down your drain are so small that you can't even see it with your naked eye. So right now, I'm going to go ahead and pass you over to Ruben. He is going to tell you about the experiment he's going to do for us tonight, and then I will come back and I will tell you a little more about microplastics and what they are doing to our waterways.
All right, well, thanks, Sarah. So microfibers are kind of a tough subject because it's an intangible thing. You know, like Sarah said, these tiny little particles are so small, you can't even see them. So how are we supposed to expect you to believe us when we say, you know, there's these tiny little microscopic things that are escaping your washer? Well, we thought that maybe it would be a good idea to set up a demonstration to help you actually see with your own eyes what's coming out of your washer every time you do a load. So what we have here is we have this little itty bitty replica of your washing machine, right? It's this little micro washing machine. And so it only seemed fitting in the interest of science to have little tiny micro clothes to put into it. So we've got our little high-vis micro fleece. Comes with this awesome little fleece hat and a cool little fleece scarf. That's great. You gotta have your camo fleece pants. Yeah, those are good to have. Got yourself a nice little thermal shirt with a cute floral print. That's good, that'll go in there. Skinny jeans, don't leave home without those. Got a couple of high performance socks, that'll go in there. It's good. Again, in the interest of staying warm, up here in Alaska, we got ourselves a little fleece blanket, and everybody, of course, knows never to leave home without a towel. So what we're gonna do is we've loaded our little micro washer, and we're gonna take 1,000 milliliters of water, and we're gonna pour it on in there. That's going to get things nice and soaked up. We're not going to use detergent at this time because, as you'll find out later, detergent doesn't seem to make much of a difference. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this guy and I'm going to shake it up for a good 5 straight minutes, and that's going to emulate your basic washing cycle. And I'm going to take all these clothes out. I'm going to wring them out, and I'm going to make sure that this water is nice and mixed. And I'm going to take a subsample of this, just a small little portion, probably about 75 milliliters. And I'm going to put it through this handy dandy little vacuum filtration system we have back here, and that'll be armed with a 0.45 micron filter. What that's going to do is it's going to allow all the water to pass through, but it's going to capture all those microscopic particles. And then I've got a couple of microscopes here. I've got this little USB microscope, and I've got our compound microscope here. And we're going to look at those samples under the microscope so you can see for yourself what it is that came off of this batch of clothes. Now, bear in mind, everything that's in here is all synthetic. We did that on purpose because we want you to actually see the plastic that's coming out of the washer. But your typical laundry scenario isn't going to be like this. You're going to have other things like wool, you're going to have cotton, you might have some bamboo. But for the purpose of this experiment, we thought it would be good just to have it all synthetic. So with that, I'm going to get this wash going and hand it back to Sarah, and we'll see you back here in just a little bit.
Great, thank you, Ruben. All right, it'll take me just 1 second to pull my PowerPoint back up. All right, are we good? Okay. All right, great. So I want to continue on by showing you a few pictures of something that was really very eye-opening to me when it comes to understanding microfibers and the problem that they're causing. And that is pictures of what our clothes actually look like up close. So I'm starting out with a picture of a big fluffy fleece. I'm starting with this one because I think that for most of us who already know about microfibers, this is what we think the biggest culprit is. And you can see why when you look at this picture. There's these big, just jumbled mesh of fibers, and you can see why they would shed off. You can actually, if you have a fleece, you can almost pinch those little fibers off with your fingers and see them come loose. I'm going to show you a picture of quite a variety of clothes, and I'm not really going to say too much about them because I think they're pretty self-explanatory, but I just want you guys to see what is going on up close with our clothes. Here we have a thinner fleece, and you can see that the exact same problem is happening. It's just smaller fibers, basically. It's a different type of fleece. Now we're getting into woven materials, and you can see that this is a synthetic sweater, and even though there is definitely a structured weave, you still have so many loose fibers hanging out on this sweater that are just waiting to fall off. Another synthetic sweater. This is kind of a loose, flowy shirt, and you can see the structure is much tighter, but even with this type of material, you still have these loose synthetic fibers just waiting to fall off into your washing and drying. Right, yoga pants. This is a synthetic thermal. And all of these pictures, the close-ups anyway, are taken of my personal clothing with our microscope. So this is right from our own material. All right, hiking pants. Getting better, but we still have fibers hanging on. And lastly, these are a pair of those stretchy kind of spandex material jogging pants. And when you would look at these, you would not even begin to imagine that there were loose threads coming off of them. But once you look up close, there they are. So you can see by looking at these clothes and the loose fraying fibers on them, how vulnerable they're going to be to falling off or to shedding materials when they're in the washer and dryer. In studies, it has been shown that a single synthetic garment can shed up to 700,000 fibers in one cycle. The world is basically washing thousands of tons of plastic down its drains from these tiny plastic fibers every year. Most of these are going to slip straight through our wastewater treatment plants and end up in our oceans. As you can see from this graph, Microplastics from textiles creates a huge, major part of the microplastics that are in our oceans. These microplastics occur in far greater numbers than the large plastics we see washing up on our beaches. You can see that here that while the mass of the larger plastic outweighs the small pieces from the microfibers, that the actual sheer amount of microplastics is hugely greater than the large pieces. So once billions of these pieces of plastic make it into the ocean, what happens to them? Well, they're going to disperse. Studies have found that microplastics can be found in every part of the ocean across the globe and at every depth. This means that all ocean life is being exposed to them everywhere. The big problem that is happening with this ocean microfibers, in the ocean with these microfibers, is that marine animals are ingesting them. They can mistake these plastics for food as it floats through the water column, or filter feeders will ingest them unintentionally. We see microfibers right here in our Skagway waters. Every week we go and we take a water sample for our harmful algal blooms, and as you can see, well, here in this picture, we observed a piece of plastic that was actually stuck into a mussel down at Naku Bay. These pictures here are taken in our microscope, looking at our weekly water samples that we take when we're looking for those algal blooms. We see these plastics in our samples quite often. In this picture, you can actually see these little guys, they're called rotifers, we're actually trying to feed on this piece of microfiber. So plastics being eaten by animals in our ocean causes two main problems. The first is that because plastics don't break down, the plastic microfibrils will get caught in the digestive systems of animals that eat them. It will then take up space in their digestive system, and the animals can essentially starve because they are too full with these plastics that they don't have room to eat food that's going to actually have nutrition and nourish them. The second main problem is that plastics have actually been shown to be attractants for what are called PBTs, which is persistent bioaccumulated toxic substances. These include substances like PCBs and DDTs. They actually form a film around the microplastics. Then, when our rotifers and our shrimp and our zooplankton mistake the plastics for food, they'll get this concentrated dose of these chemicals, which then will enter directly into our food chain and move its way right up to us. A study by UC Davis looked at fish in a local California fish market. What they did is they went to the market and they bought a variety of all the different fish that were sold at the market and then took a look at them for microplastics. When they did the study, they found that a third of the shellfish and a quarter of the finfish had microplastics in them. So it's pretty obvious that the key to dealing with this problem is keeping these plastics out of our water systems in the first place. We're going to be able to pick bottles and jugs up off our beach and filter them out of our ocean, but it is going to be a much harder problem to figure out how to remove these microplastics that we cannot even see. Which brings me to our solution, because at the beginning I promised that I was not going to be presenting on any problems that I'm not also going to present a solution for. Plastic microfiber pollution is a relatively new discovery and hasn't been addressed for very long. But new discoveries and technologies and tools for trapping these and catching them are being developed. I looked into some of these solutions, and the one that I found the most appealing was the coral ball. which was included in the sustainable laundry kits that people got. The coral ball was designed to mimic coral in the way that it allows water to pass through it while catching the particles. All you have to do if you have a coral ball is keep it in your washing machine. It will do the rest of the work. If you are interested in getting your own coral ball, you can find these easily online on coralball.com, or I believe Earth Hero also sells them. Coral balls are basically a ball of spindle made of 100% recycled plastic. These spindles all have these rubber teeth that face inward on them. These inward-facing teeth make it easy for fibers to move in towards the center of the ball, but make it very hard for them to move out, essentially trapping the microfibers in the middle of the ball. Studies that have been done show that the coral ball traps approximately 26% of the microfibers that are loosened in the washing cycle. This is pretty good considering all you really have to do with it is leave it in your washer. However, because the fibers are so small, it takes time for them to really start to build up to the point that you're able to see them build into a coral ball, in the coral ball. Sorry. One of the big issues that coral ball has been facing is that people cannot see the fibers build up, so they start to assume that it's not working. I can understand this personally because when we started using ours, we were many washes in, and all it really looked like I had caught was a lot of my dog's hairs and a few of my own. So I decided to go ahead and take a closer look at them. In this picture, you can see what I was seeing. There are a lot of hairs in here, mostly my dog's, some of mine winding through here. But if you look closer, you can see that there is a lot more going on in there than just hair. All of these pictures are pictures that I took from my coral ball after about 2 weeks of use. One thing that the people at Coral Ball recommend is that you leave hairs and fibers to build up inside your coral ball until it really looks like you need to clean it. The reason for this is that the fibers will tangle up together. You can actually see in these pictures, and especially in this one here, that they actually appear to be tying knots around each other. So basically, the more fibers you have in your coral ball, the more you're going to catch as they tangle together. If you do get a coral ball and it builds up a lot of microplastic or microfibers into it, if you decide you need to clean it, all you have to do is separate the little pull the spindles apart and pinch out the fibers the same way you would clean like your hairbrush. You do want to make sure you put these fibers directly into the trash can because the whole point was to make sure they don't end up in the ocean. Coral balls can just be left in your washer except for delicate loads or when you wash anything with lace. The same mechanism that catches the fibers in your wash will also tangle up with your lace, or if you have anything with strings like a blanket or a scarf with tassels on the ends. I have some spaghetti strap tank tops that I had get tangled in there. They didn't damage the shirts, however, it was just a quick detangling process. So anyway, I am very excited about all of you being here and being interested in these tools that we're offering, or that we presented in this video. And on that note, I am going to pass you over to Ruben and see what we got out of our tiny wash.
Okay, hey. Yeah, a little noisy here in the lab, so I had to have my headphones on. So let's go ahead and share my screen here. And let's take a look at what we found in our tiny, tiny little wash. So right now, what you're looking at that's actually the table I got this fine little faux marble thing going on here. So first of all, I'm going to show you just what a piece of paper looks like underneath this microscope. So you can see some texture in that. This is just as a comparison, so you can see how teeny tiny the pores on this little micron, submicron filter are. So here comes the edge of it. And you just don't see any texture at all. Those holes are so small, they're going to capture every last little bit. So let's move on into the interior of this, and we're starting to see, recognize that color there? That's our tiny little high-vis fleece, possibly our scarf or our hat. But that is definitely fibers that have come off of that guy. You see some of the blue in there. That's probably the skinny jeans. I see some black, which most likely comes from the camo. And bear in mind that this was less than 1/10 of the total sample of that teeny tiny little wash. So that means there are 10 times this amount at the very least in the rest of that full sample from our micro washing machine. There's an awful lot of material coming through here. And you can see it's all different colors from all those different articles of mini clothing. So let's go ahead and get an even closer view. I'm going to switch you now to our compound microscope. Right now we have it on the number 10 objective, or no, the number 4 objective. So you can see, looking just a little bit closer, this is a sample that I pulled off of that filtered paper. And definitely there is an awful lot of stuff going on in here. And you can start to see the actual character of it as being a plastic. Let's go ahead and switch to the 10 objective. Now you can really see these are strands of plastic. And just one more view with the 40 objective to really bring it home how small this stuff is, but that it is indeed this manufactured little strands of plastic. And in my mind, you know, I see something like this and I realize, boy, this is really a very serious problem. This is a all-encompassing, very, very dire thing that we need to begin to address. And I believe that other scientists around the world are starting to realize this. Very recently, just in July of this year, a scientist named Neil Lant published a study looking at microfiber release from full-size European and North American washing machines using the different settings that we're all familiar with, you know, large load versus small load, hot versus cold, all of that jazz. So just to give you an idea of the scope of this problem, Lant and his team looked at the European methodology side of the study. And what they showed was an average release of 357 milligrams of microfibers per average wash load. Now, 357 milligrams for you Americans out there, that's about 1/100th of an ounce. So now it's time to have some fun with math, and don't worry, I'll do the math for you. Lant and his team also, through various studies, they crunched the numbers, and they estimate that about 35.6 billion wash loads are completed in 23 European Union countries every year. And so if we're going to believe Lant and his buddies that their tests are representative of the average EU washing cycle, then we can say that 12,709 tons, or 28,018,549 pounds of microfibers are potentially released every year in Europe to aquatic systems. Now, you're probably telling yourself, well, yeah, but Ruben, you know, that can't all be synthetic, right? That's got to be a mixture of those, you know, because the average wash cycle, you know, you told us it's going to have cotton, it's going to have wool, it's going to have other natural fibers. Well, Lant and his friends, they were thinking that too. So they did their own little statistical study of their tests, and they found that about 4% of the microfibers were synthetic. So if you take that and extrapolate it out to the European figures, that still equals 1,120,742 pounds of plastic microfibers released into European rivers and eventually reaching the ocean. That's a huge problem. It's a massive overwhelmingly large problem. And it would be great if a single technological solution could take care of it, but that's just not realistic. I mean, the Cora ball is great. We're really excited about the Cora ball, but Sarah was saying it only captures, less than 30% of the total microfibers. You could throw some more technology at it and increase your capture rate by using other gadgets like the guppy bag from Patagonia. It's incredible. You put all your fleeces inside it and it captures way more. Or you can put it in inline microfilter, and that'd be great too. But all of these things are costly, they're expensive, and it's unrealistic to assume that everybody is going to have this capacity to implement this type of technology into their own homes. So really the most effective way to implement widespread reduction of microfiber inputs to aquatic systems is through behavioral changes at the consumer level. So changes that I can make, changes that Sarah can make, changes that you can make. We can all make these changes. It's simple, it's inexpensive, and it's accessible to everybody. So I'm going to go ahead and share my other screen here. Hang on for a moment. We're going to look at another deal here. Go to this. So the LAMP study, and going through all their stuff, they identified 3 principal consumer behaviors that can be easily altered and can have a really significant impact on microfiber release. So first off, it's the size of your washing machine load in relation to the amount of water used. Now, water is this amazing, amazing magical substance. It has so many amazing qualities. I don't have time to get into it now, but what you need to know for this exercise is that water is a universal solvent. It can exert huge amounts of kinetic and chemical energy on any substance it comes in contact with. So the more water that passes through the fibers of your clothes, the more of that energy is exerted on those fibers and the more fibers that are going to be released. So Lant discovered this incredible inverse relationship between microfiber release, which is here on the vertical axis, and the size of the laundry load size, this load mass here on the horizontal axis. And look what happens when you go from a smaller load to a larger load. Look at this very obvious pattern that's happening here. The bigger the load, and therefore the smaller the ratio of water to clothing, the less fibers that are extracted. So don't do partial loads. And I know that that's just not going to happen. We all have to do a partial load, but make sure that you have a washing machine that allows you to tell the washer, I have a smaller load, add less water. Or use a high efficiency washing machine. These newfangled things are just amazing. You put your laundry load in and it uses sensors and it senses how much water it needs to add to it, adds the appropriate amount, out of sight. But yes, watch the water to load size ratio. The second point is you need to really watch your temperature. Hot water is going to wear your clothes out faster and is going to accelerate microfiber release. So here's another fun little graph for you. This is a whiskered box plot from the LAMP study. And they found that lowering temperature from 40 degrees Celsius here, kindly color coded so that you can tell which one is warm, and 40 degrees Celsius, again for the Americans, is about 104 degrees. So they found that lowering from 40 degrees Celsius down to this cold express, which is 15 degrees Celsius or 59 degrees Fahrenheit, showed a 30% reduction in overall microfiber release. Now, the other thing they discovered about temperature is that it reduced the amount of whiteness loss by 42.3%. You know how your clothes, they start to fade after a lot of washes? Well, if you use colder water, that's going to happen at a decelerated rate. That effectively lengthens the life of the garment from an aesthetic viewpoint. You run your hot water heater less, you're saving energy, you're reducing your carbon footprint. It's a win for everybody, but especially for the fish. And finally, this one's a little harder to get your brain around and to implement, but try to find quality clothing that's made to last. Avoid buying new clothes on a regular basis. Now, the LAMP team was trying, they did this other study, and they were trying to determine whether or not the use of detergent or not, or the use of fabric softener or not, was going to affect fiber shredding. And if you look at the graph here, water only is in the yellow, and water plus a European pod or using detergent is in the green. And you see there's not really a difference between the two. Now, very, very slight, but statistically not significant. But what is significant is this pattern that you see from the first cycle versus the 8th cycle. So new garments that have never been washed release a significantly higher number of microfibers than the same fabric after 4 or 8 cycles. When looking at the fabric softener in the same way, they used 6 times the amount of wash cycles, but they found the same pattern. No difference between fabric softener or no fabric softener. Not really, but that very first cycle, massive amount of microfiber release, and then it attenuates over time. And by the 8th cycle, it's reached this very even keel. So the age of your clothing is really going to make a difference. If you're buying new clothes every 4 months or at whatever rate you're doing it, try to increase the amount of time between buying clothes. Try to extend the life of your clothes. Buy that quality clothing, and it'll really pay off in the end. So a little bit of a review. Don't forget, watch your water to load size ratio. Don't do the partial loads. If you do a partial load, set your washing machine correctly for that. Watch the temperature. Use cooler washing cycles. You don't have to use cold water every time. Just don't use the hottest water possible every single time. And finally, keep your clothes for longer. It's going to be good for you. It's going to be good for the planet. It's going to be good for the fish. So with that, I'm going to end my screen share. I hope you enjoyed this little demonstration. This will be the 4th or 5th time that we've done it, and it's still just amazing to me to see all the stuff that comes off of it. So I'll hand it back to Sarah.
All right, yeah, I am constantly amazed by that experiment. I had read a lot about the theory of microplastics before we did that, but the first time we looked at how much came out of even that tiny load, it was just astonishing to me. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up the class by showing you guys how to make your own laundry detergent at home easily. The recipe that I'm giving you is a super easy one, but it is also a really good one. I have been so impressed with this since I started using it. It will be very easy for you to make at home, super affordable. I'll go over what you need and how to do it. So to do this, I'm going to adjust my camera so I can show you what's in front of me more than my face. So just bear with me. Okay, so you're going to need 3 ingredients basically. The first is, start with borax. So you're going to need borax, and that is just basic borax, and you get it at you can get it here in Skagway at the hardware store or at the Fairway Market. You will find it in the laundry section at both of those places. The second ingredient that you need is washing soda. Now, washing soda is not baking soda. It is a different thing, and it also comes in the laundry section and is available at the hardware and at Fairway. I have, however, heard that washing soda has become a little harder to find in our current circumstances. I'm not sure why that is, but if you do find yourself in a situation where you don't have access to getting the washing soda, you can make washing soda out of baking soda. You do have to make it go through this process though. And what you do is you just take your baking soda and you put it on a baking sheet and you spread it out thin. And then you put it in your oven for about 20 minutes at 400 degrees. And it will, you want to keep an eye on it when it's in there, and it'll actually make a physical transition. It'll quit being the nice fine powdery substance that baking soda is and become a sandy or gritty texture to it. And the third ingredient that you need is bar soap. I've been using the Dr. Bronner's bar soap, and this has been excellent for my laundry. You want to be careful when you choose your soap that you use for your laundry detergent. And that is because lots of hand soaps can have extra oils or fats added to them or more beeswax, and that keeps your hands nice and soft, but you don't want that on your laundry. It can actually end up building a residue on the inside of your washer if you use too fatty of a soap. So we have been using Dr. Bronner's. We also talked to Anne-Marie with Glacial Naturals, and she's going to be beginning to make what she's going to call a laundry bar, and it's something that's comparable to this and will not have any of that extra stuff that will end up building up in your washer. So that's also a really great resource for that. So they do sell this Dr. Bronner soap at USA Tomato. So you probably want to look at USA Tomato or Glacial Naturals if you need to purchase soap in Skagway for this. So to make your soap, it's going to take about a half a bar of soap for one recipe, which is available on our blog. So it'll take about a half a bar of soap, and it's going to take a cup and a half each of the washing soda and the borax. So if you were to buy 2 bars of soap and a box each of the borax and the washing soda, you would have enough to make 4 recipes that we're giving to you. And each recipe should last between 30 and 40 washes. So if you do 1 a day, you're looking at about a month's worth of laundry with 1 recipe, if you do 1 load of wash a day. So yeah, and if you buy for 4 recipes worth, it costs about $20. So you're looking at about $5 a month to maintain this laundry detergent. So now I will go into how to make it. So you need a few things to be able to, a few tools to be able to make this, but everything you should be able to find right in your own kitchen. So you want to start, you need a cheese grater, just a standard cheese grater, a stirring implement of some kind. It can be a spoon or a spatula, a measuring cup, and a nice large bowl. I really like making soap because it says such easy cleanup because all you have on there is soap. So really you just have to basically rinse it off and everything's clean. So the first thing you want to do with your laundry soap is you are going to grate your soap. You want to use the finest grate that you have on your cheese grater, whatever the smallest size is, because when you're doing this, you want your pieces of soap to be as small as possible. This just aids in the dissolving process in the washing machine. So it's not a huge deal if you don't have a super small grate on your cheese grater. It'll all end up dissolving, but just as small as you can get it is better. So when you do the grate, you want to do like short, quick grates on your grater, because like when you're grating cheese, if you do like long strokes down the cheese grater, you can get like those long, curly, stringy pieces of cheese, which is the same with soap. And you really just want to focus on getting them as small as possible in there. So just do quick, short little grates on your smallest side of your cheese grater. For this recipe, you want a cup, a solid cup of soap grates. When you're doing it, you want to make sure that you are getting a good measure, because you want to keep your ratio of borax, washing soda, and soap close to what the recipe was. So you want to shake it down to get it to settle while you're measuring it, but don't tamp it down because you'll end up creating a bar of soap inside your cup if you press too hard on there. So you just shake it down and let it settle. At that point, you just toss it right in your bowl. All right, and you are good to go with that. Let's see. So the next thing you do is you put a cup and a half each of your washing soda and your borax. Again, you want to be careful with your measuring. And also I like to suggest pouring slow when you do this. Both the borax and the washing soda can have a tendency, because they're powdered, to poof up in the air, and it's really not fun to breathe it in. So just be careful as you pour. And so a cup and a half. Nice and slow pour. Even. Same for the borax. This is the one that really gets poofy. Just nice. All right, so you have a cup and a half. Pour it in. And then you do want to mix this with some kind of stirring implement. You don't want to use your bare hands because the low pH on these or the high pH on these can actually be a skin irritant. So you don't want to like have long exposure to your bare skin with these. Nothing bad's gonna happen if you get a little on your skin, but better not to like stick your hands in there. So you just want to give it a nice stir, make sure everything is well distributed, and then put it in whatever container you have, a mason jar, an old tub of something that you can reuse, whatever you want to do. So you stir it up, everything is well distributed, and you are good to go. You have laundry detergent. As far as how much to use, you want to use between 1 and 3 tablespoons of this per wash, 1 for a small load, 3 for a big load. I honestly, I'll just so you can see my face. I honestly never use more than 2 tablespoons in mine. I've never needed to. Again, just like I said before, with any detergent, don't overuse it. It can damage your washer, it can damage your clothes, it can damage the oceans. Whether you're using this or your own, don't overuse. I'm trying to think. I honestly, I'm gonna tell you how much I love this laundry detergent. Since we started using it, we've put it through a lot of tests before we wanted to give everyone the recipe. It's gone through the dirty dog bed test. It's gone through the stinky husband armpit test. It's gone through the dirty dish towels left too long test, and everything has come out so clean and smelling so fresh. And I think, let's see. Oh yeah, I also wanted to talk about, like, I hadn't realized that my commercial laundry detergent had been leaving a residue on my clothes. But as soon as I started using this, I realized when they came out of the dryer, everything felt like softer and fresher. And it just has a different feel to it once you start using this. And I hope that anybody who decides to go ahead and start using it realizes that too. And I think that's it. If you can't think of anything we need to add, Ruben, I guess I will just say, if you need to reach out, if you have questions, feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to talk about this. And yeah, all the information for contacting us is on our website, and the recipe for the laundry detergent is on the blog. So thank you for watching, and I hope you learned something and enjoyed our class.